does say we're live, right? Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the What's on at Elephant Castle Facebook page. Joining me today is Danny Meyers. Danny, we were talking a little bit about your weekend just now. Can you just kind of give us a recap of what the weekend was like for you while I do all the little links, and then I'm going to introduce you, okay, properly?
Yeah, just a very busy weekend here at the Ozone ice rink. From 5:45, we had the figure skaters on. Up to 11:30, we had the Learn to Skate program. Between 12 and 1, we had a goalie clinic, so ice hockey goalie clinic between 12 and 1. We then had a jamboree, which is a mini tournament where they get under 11 players from all over the country, and instead of playing on their team, they mix up the team so everyone gets to play alongside new teammates. So that was on from 2 till 6, and then after that we had the adult rec 3-on-3 league, which was a blast as well. So it was a very busy day on Saturday for sure.
And then of course Sunday was the big England football game. Tell me how you watched that. Tell me your feelings around England losing.
It's funny actually, because the rink's been open for 2 months now, just over 2 months, and we started the build in February, and pretty much since February I've just been in my own little bubble. I'm a big West Ham fan, I'm a big England fan, and usually I'm really up to date with anything sport. But I've literally been in my own little bubble the last kind of 4 or 5 months, and it was funny actually because obviously the Wimbledon final was on as well, and I mean, I'm not an avid tennis fan, but like most, I would always watch Wimbledon every year. And I just got off the ice and I'd gone upstairs to the bar area, and the Wimbledon final was on. I was like, I had no idea if Wimbledon was even on. That's kind of the bubble that I've been in. Now, obviously, I've been aware of the football, and we've had all the games here, so that's been pretty cool for everyone to watch the games. So, yeah, I mean, just immensely proud, to be honest with you, for them to get all the way to the final. And it's not only what they've achieved in this tournament, this goes back to 2018, really, in the World Cup. You know, as a former sportsman, I really look into kind of the chemistry of a team, and I like watching the behind the scenes, which the England media have done on their social media platforms, and there is an incredible bond between that team, and anyone who thinks that this is the end of the road for that team is sorely wrong. This is just the start for them. You can tell by the camaraderie. It's a very, very close-knit team, and an amazing achievement to get to the final, first one in 55 years, and here's to the World Cup next year.
I think that there's going to be a lot learned from this from this Euros on the pitch and off the pitch. I think it's a transformational time for people in society. So that could be a whole other podcast, Danny. I want to get to you. And you know, you're from East London originally, and you are have been one of Britain's best British-born ice hockey players. I can remember from the time that I started watching you, I think it was in your Nottingham Panthers days when I was covering it on Sky Sports. And I want to get into that because I do remember meeting you. I remember meeting you at the Nottingham Ice Arena, and I had a feeling around you, you know, and your empathy, and you as a leader. I think you're an amazing athlete and an amazing leader. And I want to kind of get to, how did you get to where you were when I met you? It would have been over 10 or 12 years ago now, and when you were playing in Nottingham. So how did you end up becoming a professional ice hockey player?
Well, it's interesting, kind of just as obviously I've got the Ozone ice rink here in Bracknell. When the big arena here in Bracknell first opened, I went to the first ever professional game. I was the first player to sign up as a junior. I was 4 years old, and then the youngest age group was under 12. So as you can imagine, I was a lot smaller than everybody else. I was playing with 10, 11-year-olds. And so I'm currently, I turned out to be 6'3" in the end, but because I was small and everyone used to call me Little Danny, it's something that I'm incredibly still referred to by some people who have been at the rink, the old Bracknell rinks, you know, 30 odd years ago. Whenever they see me, they still call me Little Danny, which I'm at 6'3", I'm far from that. But hockey-wise, just got the bug very, very quick. I suppose going back to the fact that I was 4 years old and I was playing in a team of 10, 11-year-olds, one of the things that struck me straight away is how kind they were to me. Being older kids, they were extremely kind and they looked after me. I was little Danny, and so kind of everyone kind of looked after me, and that struck a chord with me, to be honest. And it's something that, as I grew up, and certainly when I became professional, and when I had been on a team where younger guys were coming onto our team, I felt the need to look after them, as opposed to, kind of go back to sport in the 80s and 90s and maybe the early 2000s, where if you were a young player, you had to have some sort of initiation, or the old guys would be tougher than because they needed to toughen them up and stuff like that. It's never something that I bought into. So when I was in Bracknell, the team was very, very successful. After 3 or 4 years, the team would pretty much win the league every year, and it would go from strength to strength. So I learned how to be on a team that would win and that would come together and find ways of playing together and getting success. So that was born very, very early. I was very much used to winning as a young kid, or being shown the way on how to win games and on how to win competitions. So from an early age, I kind of had the bug of I wanted to win. And then I had a very strong mindset. My parents were incredibly supportive. They allowed me to push myself without going over the top. They were very motivational, and filled me with a lot of self-belief. I wouldn't say that my school life was particularly pleasant. In many ways, hockey, at a risk of sounding like a cliche, saved me in many ways. It certainly defined me as a person. School wasn't a place that was particularly good for me. I didn't really at that stage want to learn, and I think I had to take responsibility for that. As a hockey player, I would go away for the weekends and have these highs of being around my friends and being around like-minded people, and then I think I would struggle socially to fit back in at school. Therefore, I wasn't particularly popular or anything like that. And as school wasn't necessarily the most pleasant of experiences for me, I found myself just more and more kind of divulging into hockey, and that's what I wanted to be. I mean, I remember quite clearly, we had a careers lady come in one day, and she went round, she brought everyone into the room and kind of said, what do you want to be when you're older? And she was like, so what do you want to be? And I just said, I want to be a professional ice hockey player. And she was like, okay. She obviously wasn't particularly familiar with ice hockey, didn't know if you could earn a living from that. And she was like, and if that doesn't happen, what else do you want to be? And I just looked her dead in the eye and I said, I'm going to be a professional ice hockey player. And that's the end of it. And pretty much just kind of walked out. So from an early age, I had a relentless pursuit to be the best that I could be at ice hockey. And it eventually got me to the pro ranks.
Yeah. And that's when I was covering, ice hockey on Sky Sports, and I met you. And I remember meeting other young British born and bred players at the time. Like I remember a young Jonathan Weaver when he was 19 up in Manchester. And I can remember David Clark and Matt Meyers. And there was something about your generation in particular that I was really drawn to, and that you guys were kind. You didn't put on this kind of bravado that generations maybe before of like this kind of You were all real gentlemen, and I really remember that. Where do you think that came from? Is like, I know you talk about how in the 80s and 90s, guys like where my generation came from, we had to go through this initiation and this you need to be tough and you need to do that. There were rather disgusting things that we would have to do to be seen as being part of the team. When do you think that shift happened? And again, I want to kind of go into the empathetic kind of values you had as a leader, because I think they stead you very fast for who you are today and what you're doing at the Ozone. Where did the shift come in? Was it somebody a mentor that you had, or was it just an internal feeling that you had, which is like, you don't have to put on this kind of tough image to be a good leader?
I think initially for me, it was what I had. It was just the way that I was, I wanted to be a professional ice hockey player, and I was desperate to get there. And the last thing I wanted to do is when I got to the pro ranks was to start being a negative person. I mean, why would you want to do that? Why would I knew how hard I had worked to get there, and whoever was coming up the ranks afterwards would have worked just as hard as I had. So why would you want to diminish them or humiliate them at times? Like, it's just something that I just never got. I never understood it. The great thing that I had is that when you talk about some of those guys that you spoke about there, we were all of the same age group, and we were all very much of the same mindset. We came through the ranks together, whether it be kind of England and GB16s, 18s, 20s. And the truth of it all really is that we loved the game and we loved being around each other. And we were very much like, come into our group. You know, we laugh about the most stupid of things. We often, for the most part, laugh at ourselves before anything else. Like you know, Jonathan Phillips, the current Great Britain under-20 captain, it's funny when I see, now that I'm out of the game, and I see John doing his interviews, and you know, I know what is said after the interview, where he's very professional when he does his interview, but then I know after the cameras stop rolling, he's making a joke about himself because he's got a word wrong or something like that. And so we never really kind of put ourselves up as you know, on a pedestal or anything like that. For us, we just loved the game. We thoroughly enjoyed being around each other. We were very welcoming to anyone that kind of was on our team or kind of our friendship group. We literally just kind of welcomed everyone in. And then as we got older and we started becoming more established players on the Great Britain senior team, all of a sudden we started becoming the leaders. Therefore, you know, leadership reflects attitude. And so if the leaders are having a certain attitude, whether it be positive or negative, that will filter down to everybody else. We were just positive guys that love the game, love spending time with each other, and that just kind of filtered through, and that kind of started to make the change there on how our hockey dressing room would be. And it was certainly something when I got to Nottingham that I wanted to establish pretty quickly. I mean, I was the youngest Nottingham Panthers captain in their history, and it was something that, you know, for people that don't know ice hockey, that in Nottingham, it's a very, very high-profile team that hadn't had a whole lot of success, to be honest with you. It'd been around a long, long time, but had struggled to win championships. Going in there, there was always talk of that, you know, it was a toxic dressing room and stuff like that. And you never know what the real reasons why teams don't win is. And so, you know, getting to Nottingham, we, you know, won the playoffs the first year. I was there. The second year, I was the assistant captain. The third year, I was the captain. And the biggest thing for me was just trying to establish a dressing room where everyone felt comfortable and it was a nice place to be.
You have to be good. You know, I think that's the thing too, is like we think about leaders, but you have to be able to perform on the ice, you know, and I know that the guys that I mentioned too, you guys could all show up and deliver, you know, more than your weight in performance and skill. So I think that it's a really, it's a thing about, I know we're talking a lot about leadership, but, you know, you need to have that, the ability to interact and to build community, but you also have to be good, right? Or are there leaders out there that are not as talented and that people can take on face value for what they do in the changing room? Where's the balance?
I mean, there is a balance. Obviously, you've got to be doing your job and making sure that you're playing well. But I mean, for instance, I wasn't the best player in Nottingham by any means. Certainly nowhere near the most skilled. But what I did and my role of the team, I done to the best of my ability. And so therefore, as long as you're doing your role to the best of your ability, that's all that can be asked of. I would do anything for my team, whatever it was. And I always prided myself on being the best teammate that I could be. And the other thing is that when I was in Nottingham, despite the fact that I was the captain, we had players that had signed in Nottingham that had been captains on previous teams. And as opposed to kind of making a closed shop where I was like, right, I'm the captain, everything's going to go through me, I opened it up to everyone. Because why would I not want to delve into those qualities that they've shown before? They've been given a captaincy or a leadership role before. So they obviously have qualities about them. So I was very much of a, okay, what do you guys think? You know, what do you think here? And what it does, it makes people more involved and more invested. And so it's a lot of the way that I kind of run the Ozone, to be honest with you. This ice rink that I have here is, of course, I'm the guy that, Kevin and I, my business partner, we're the guys that are responsible for it, and we are your boss. I refuse to allow anyone to call me boss. I refuse to allow any sort of anything like that. I believe with the way that I work here and my attitude here, and I don't need to have anyone call me a name because my actions speak louder than my words. I dictate the work rate here. I am the hardest working person here. Therefore, there's nothing that could be said if I was to say, hey, listen, come on, we need to work a little bit harder here, guys. And it's also your delivery to people. I think when people get put in a leadership role, unfortunately, some people kind of turn into, they feel like it needs to be a dictatorship, that all of a sudden, hey, let's shout really loud and let's be aggressive because that can put our authority across. It really isn't. That may work a couple of times, but it simply doesn't work. You have to be able to relate to these people. You have to understand what they're going through. We all come into work and we do our job and then we clock out, and then there's a whole lot of other stuff that people go on to in different lives. You never know what people are going through. And I'm wary of that, that if someone walks in and they're not in the greatest mood, it's not because they don't necessarily want to be here. Well, maybe they've had a tough morning. Yeah. So maybe I just go over there and just say, hey, how's your morning? And if they want to talk to me about it, then great. And if they don't, I can say, well, you know what, you're doing great, or I hope you have a good day. And it's amazing just what one sentence and just one little bit of conversation and an investment in the conversation to someone can do to change their mood that day.
I think that's what one of the attributes a good leader has is just acknowledging and being aware that however big your team is, could be 2 people, it could be 16 people, it could be 25 people. People are bringing in energy and sadness and happiness into their work environment, and that happens in changing rooms. It also happens in work environments. And I suppose what I wanted to ask you about now is in my personal journey, like I was just like an average ice hockey player over here. And I really loved the game. It's part of my DNA. I grew up with it and I loved watching it. I loved analyzing it. I loved knowing the intricacies of the game. I liked looking for the small things in the game, the little things, that little no-look passes or little things off the skate, just little kind of, I love the beautifulness of this game. It's a wonderful game. And I wasn't great, but I was good enough to get a career after I stopped playing. And there was this thing of, okay, you stop playing the sport that you love and you lose a couple of things. I think what I lost was like, I had an identity around being part of a team. I also missed the team itself and the accountability that team gave me. Having to show up at a rink at 11:30 at night, when it's cold and wet and having to just to push yourself harder and harder, not for yourself, but for your teammates. And when I stopped playing, like I lost a little bit of that and I had a bereavement of it. And then I got straight into a career that I absolutely loved doing, but I felt like a fraud and an imposter. I didn't feel like I belonged in it. And I went through a real kind of, 15 years of trying to figure things out. I went through some really dark times. What was it like when you quit playing the game that you loved and that you still love? Like, what was it like? What was that transition like for you?
To be honest, the first year was fine. And I say it was fine because I wasn't recognizing that actually things weren't fine. The way that I dealt with retirement was that I decided that I was going to forget everything I had previously done, all my achievements. I felt the way that in order for me to move on to the next stage of my life would be to completely, right, that's the full stop, and now I'm going to move on. Now, the problem with that is that, like you alluded to earlier, you do have an identity. You draw on confidence. We draw on confidence from a routine, for instance. If people are put out of their routine, that could knock their confidence. If you go to a place that you have never been before, that can knock your confidence because it's not familiar to you. Familiarities and routines is something that we are able to gain confidence, but also make us comfortable. And so for me, I'm not in a routine of going to the rink every day. I'm not in a routine of knowing 8 months in advance where I'm going to be every single day and every single weekend, because we would have our fixture list. So that would be it. So I know I'm here, I know I've got this and everything's right. And so when that's taken away from you, then I'm going, right, so what am I going to do this weekend? Because for the past 18 years as a professional, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And now I'm not quite sure. And now I'm talking to people that have nothing to do with ice hockey. And will I be able to even enter a conversation with them? Because what do I have to offer? For the most part, my life has been about ice hockey. And can I have a conversation about whatever it may be? And so I figured that by putting a full stop on my ice hockey career and moving on to what was then going to be going into construction, that would be the best way about it. And it wasn't really there was definitely signs after a year and a half that I started to notice, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And then after about 3 years, it was just a case of, what is this? It was, my sons are immensely proud of my career, and my God, I'm proud that they're proud. And so, especially my oldest son, he would watch former games he would miss watching me play. And so he would watch games on TV and YouTube and stuff like that of my games. And I couldn't even bear to look at it. If he had it on in the room, I would either walk out or I would ask him to turn it off. I felt to move on to the next stage, I had to completely forget about that previous stage. And literally all I was doing was stripping all my powers. Because not that I can't function without being an ice hockey player, but there was a lot of core values that I learned from that. I left school without any GCSEs. I certainly didn't learn any communication skills at school because I was pretty recluse from it all, because I just didn't really fit in there. And so, hockey had taught me how to integrate with people of all nationalities and understand where they come from and their beliefs and their religion and what it may be. And I was stripping all that away, not realizing of the detriment it was to me. And then all of a sudden, I can't even function in a large crowd. Right? If there was a large crowd, I would feel extremely anxious. I've never suffered panic attacks or anxiety before in my whole life. I'm going from being able to play in front of 10,000 people to I can't even stand in a room with 6 or 7 people, and it's just freaking me out, and I'm sweating, and it's like being on that roller coaster, and it's about to go down, and you've got that moment where it's about to go down, and your heart is just racing so hard, and you're like, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. I was on the edge all the time. I wasn't prepared to go down. And so I was on the edge looking over the roller coaster, and my heart racing and racing and racing and racing. And all I'm thinking is, I want this to stop, but I can't control this. And it's a feeling that takes over you, that you feel completely out of control. Previous to that, I'd always felt I was always in control. And now I'm going through this stage and I have no answers for any of this. And worst of all, I don't even know how I've got to this stage. So I couldn't even understand the kind of points of, okay, I need to, if I start feeling like this, I need to do that. I didn't even realize I got to this stage. And it just kind of resulted in the end of, I just got home from work, a long day at construction. I pulled into the driveway, and I got out of the van, and I literally fell to my knees. And I just started sobbing. I mean, like wailing like a child does when it hasn't got its dummy, when it's a newborn baby, and it is so loud. And I was extraordinarily loud with my crying, and to the point where my wife came out and she had to pick me up. She couldn't pick me up. I felt like a big dead weight. It was literally, there was nothing in me that could kind of pull me up. And she was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? She thought something had happened to my family, like a death in my family. I was sobbing that much. And I remember just kept saying to her, there was 2 things that I said. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And she kept saying, what can't you do? What can't you do? And I couldn't explain it. I said, I can't do this anymore. And then I started talking about, you know, I feel like I'm a phony. I feel like, you know, hockey was a disguise for me. And really, I am this little bit of waste of a man, and that I'm nothing. And that without hockey, I'm not even worth being a human being anymore. I'm just a waste of time. That's literally kind of how I felt. And then, you know, we go inside, and I fell asleep. It was like 6 o'clock, and I fell asleep for like 3 hours and woke up, and it was kind of like, what happened? And she was like, listen, we need to get this sorted. It's been going on a while. I don't know if you've noticed it, but we need to help you here. And that's when you kind of go, okay, I need to get this sorted out. And that's kind of where it got to. And then you start kind of trying to rebuild yourself back up again.
You mentioned the word control, and that you were losing control. What was it control of that you were losing?
Control was, for me, of how I reacted to situations, and control was the energy and the positivity inside of me. There was very, very little positivity. There was very little energy. There was zero confidence. I backed myself throughout my whole life that I could achieve anything. Now the control really is that I can't control any kind of what would it be the word, kind of output of myself. It's almost like I'm going to be there, and it's going to be up for other people to decide on which way my life goes, because I didn't have this enough strength in me to motivate myself or go out and what I felt achieve something. That was the control. Whereas before I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to set a path of what I'm going to do, and I'm going to work hard, and this is my plan, and this is how I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. By hook or by crook, I'm going to do whatever it takes to achieve my goal. And now I was like, I don't even know what step one is to be able to try and achieve it. And then even being taught about, you know, okay, what do you want to do? You know, do you want to do this? And it's like, straight away, I can't do it. And it was like so far from my mindset of what it used to be, because if someone said, you know, can you do this? I wouldn't even go on my other side of it. Yep, I don't care what it is, because I'm going to do whatever it takes to do it, and I'm going to back myself. And then I'm at a stage now where I'm like, I don't even want to even entertain the thought of trying to go out and do something.
I want to talk more about that moment that, you know, you woke up and you were with your wife, and it's like, you know, something needs to happen. Was there some kind of surrender there for you? Like some kind of surrender in like, Danny can't do this anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been someone that's cared a lot for people. I am an outgoing person. I've always tried to pride myself on trying to help others, whether it be by talking to them or making them feel good about yourself. I think I've always been someone that's tried to help, and I've been lucky that people have allowed me to help them, because that's one of the things, they have allowed me to help them. And so I have helped them. And so what I've just said there is that I wasn't allowing anyone to help me. And so the surrender and the first step is me going, okay, help me. Because for me, I'd always kind of gone through as like, I can solve anything for anyone, and I can solve anything for myself. And this was the first point where I went, you know what, like whatever it is, I've got to get some help here. I've got to listen to some people. I've got to stop being so hard on myself. I've got to recognize the love that I have around me. I've got to recognize that these people are, and people were reaching out. They were. So it's not a case of I was just on my own. People were trying to help me. My parents were trying to help me. My wife, my friends, my kids. My kids were trying to help me. I'm all right. I'll get it solved. Don't worry. I'm just going through a little bit of a blip. I'll be fine. And it wasn't, man. Like, and it wasn't until that moment where my wife was like, you know, I can't see you like this anymore. I mean, I've never cried in my life, and I certainly have never sobbed. And so it was that moment where it was like, this isn't something I can just do by myself now. And as much as, and going back to what I said, as much as people I help you because they allowed me to help them. So here I am preaching about how I can help you, but I can only help you if you let me help you. And yet on the other side, I'm going, I don't need any help. Well, it doesn't really work like that.
It doesn't.
And I got an enormous amount of joy and pride in helping these people. And now I'm stopping these people from getting joy and pride from helping me. But when you're kind of the helper, you don't see it. And that was the moment where I was like, you know, whatever anyone can do to help me. I mean, when anyone offers their services to help you, you should let them try and help you. And even if it's a sentence, even if it's a long conversation, numerous conversations, you should never reject love and you should never reject friendship, that's for sure, because you never know when you're going to need it.
Brother, you just speak so much beautiful truth. You know, every time you tell your story, and I've read your story and I've heard it, my heart just goes, you know, because I feel it. And your vulnerability in sharing it, I want to honor that, and I want to say thank you for sharing it, because you know it helps me. And I think the whole idea of, like, I used to selflessly try to, well, I say selflessly, I tried to help people too, and it gave me some satisfaction. Like you said, when you help someone, it makes you feel good. But how selfish is it for us for us to deny it while coming back the other way? And then I figured out that as a people pleaser, I was just being selfish because I wanted something, I needed something.
It's so true. And, you know, why would you deny someone's trying to help you? The last thing you want is no one trying to help you. You know, while there's people out there that want to help you, then let them help. And listen, even if it makes them feel good. So you're actually, you know, you talk about how you want to help everyone else. Well, actually helping someone is letting them help you. It starts a conversation.
Yeah. Right?
So, and I didn't recognize that. I thought I was being selfless by not asking for help, but giving help. And I think a lot of people might relate to that. And it was never, honestly, you know, it's just changing your mindset, that if people want to reach out and they recognize there's something, because generally people will recognize it in you before you recognize it in yourself. We're all in our kind of, you know, we all do our thing, and we don't know when we're changing. We don't know when our moods change, and you pick stuff up on other people more than they pick it up on themselves. And so, you know, for someone to say, hey, listen, I'm going to take the time because I care about you enough that I want to make sure you're okay. I think you should always have those open arms and say, I really, really appreciate that you care about me enough that you want to take the time to make sure I'm okay. And that I've entered your thought process and I'm in your brain, that clearly you have caring feelings towards me, and why would I not embrace that? And that's kind of been a big change for me on that side, that I can still help others, but I can receive help. That doesn't diminish me in any way. And I didn't see that before, and I see that now.
Through you telling your story, if anybody, you know, and I think what I would like to offer people is that I was taught certain things when I was a kid, and I was taught them by my father and my coaches and my teachers. And I was taught things like, real men don't cry. There's no crying in sports. Real men can sort out all their own problems and never ask anyone for help. So those are the things that I was taught. If I ask for help, I'm showing weakness and that I can't do the job. So if I do get a job and I'm getting paid money for it and I don't know how to do something, I got to figure it out myself. Because if you go to the boss asking for help, then he's not going to think that he or she's not going to think that you're worthy of getting the job, and you're going to lose the job. These are ideas that I was embedded in my head. And when I knew I needed to ask for help was when I was about 30 years old. And it was when I started using alcohol and drugs, because I never drank or did drugs as an athlete. And very quickly, my life changed. But Danny, it took me 15 years, 15 years of almost dying, you know, of being in jail, of being in detoxes in hospital. It took me 15 years for those two words to come out of my mouth, which were helped me. And I think that if we can unlearn these old ideas of what real men are should look and act like, to becoming a new, not new, but other ways of being compassionate and kind and gentle and loving, you know, then we start to balance this idea around masculinity. Because I think for so long there's been an imbalance in these old ideas. And I think if we can raise each other up in being vulnerable, in which what you've been doing today, and I'm really grateful for, being vulnerable in the sense of like putting yourself out there in your dark moments, putting yourself in a place to be judged, and going, that's me, you know, that creates trust, you know. And I think that if people can trust, and they do trust you, they're going to come to you and they're going to be able to receive your help, but because they're going to be able to ask for it. I love vulnerability.
What's interesting is that you talk about mindset and how what a previous mindset may be and what I was in, and what we're trying to teach and learn about now is that I look at confidence now in a completely different way. I think if you're reaching out for help, I think that's confidence. And I think if you're not reaching out for help, then it's a lack of confidence. Whereas before I would have flipped it. I don't need to reach out because I'm confident. Well, actually, you're not confident because you're holding it all in. You're confident because you're brave enough to say, I need help. And so for me, the whole thing is flipped on its head, completely flipped on its head. I think if you're reaching out for help, good for you. That's some confidence there. That isn't about that's nothing bravado. That's nothing about, I'm going to walk around with a strut. Confidence comes in you being able to, confidence itself is doing something that you have reservations about. That's what confidence, that is the core of confidence. It's not walking around with Conor McGregor strut. It's not walking around with a nice jacket. Confidence is doing something that you know in your head can make you feel uncomfortable, but you're going to do it. That is the key element of confidence, and don't let anyone tell you any otherwise. You can make it sound sexy and stuff like that, and you can put it into anything. The truth of the matter is the core of the word confidence is doing something when you feel most vulnerable, but you're going to do it anyway. That is confidence. And so by being able to reach out and say, I need help, that's confidence.
Yeah, I agree completely with you. You know, we all have fears, and I think nobody is absent of fear. Fear is present all of the time. And I think confidence encourages being able to face those fears and go through it and accept it and move forward. It's funny because one of the things in Tender and Tough, which is the program that you and I have been talking about, one of the slides that I talk about is Rocky Balboa. And, you know, we've all seen the Rocky movies. We've all been inspired by Rocky movies. And it's funny because whenever he is about to face his deepest and darkest fear, right, he shows his ultimate vulnerability. And he cries and he says, I'm scared, you know. And I think that it's just a lesson in life is to say we are humans. We're not, none of us are immune to not holding on to fear. And I think it's beautiful when we can express, hey, I'm really scared of doing this. I'm going to go through with it and do it anyway. And we can do it together as a team. We can do it as a tribe, and we can face these fears together. And I think that's the change in mindset that I think is happening. I think there's a global shift happening. I think we've seen it with the Great Britain ice hockey team. I think we've seen it with the England football team. I see it down at the Ozone with what you're trying, with what you are doing, which is creating a community. You know, like let's talk more about the community space that you've built.
Yeah. So in the midst of me kind of getting into that place was, an ice rink was born.
Yeah.
Crazy how life can change, and it just goes to show it can change pretty quickly, and with help and with a positive outlook. My wife, a couple of days after she picked me up from drying on the driveway, she was like, you got to go back to hockey. At the time, I was coaching an under-19 in Guildford, and literally it was the only thing that made me happy at that time, really, other than spending time with my family. Coaching kids was was everything to me. I had such an enjoyable experience with the kids and the parents, and that was the highlight. And bearing in mind, we would train at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And so for most people, the thought of getting up at, so we get there for 5:45, so I would be up at 5 every Sunday. And it was the best part of my week, was getting up at that time when I'd obviously worked 6 days and I was tired, but there was energy for that. And the energy was born out of the energy that I was getting from the kids and the parents. And so my wife recognized that was what made me happy. And she was like, I think you should build a training facility for hockey players that anyone in the country can come to. And obviously at this time I'm going, no, no chance. I don't know where to start. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have the energy for it. I don't have the confidence in myself to do it. So I initially rebuffed. And then about a week later, she said it again. She's like, I really want you to do this. Now, bearing in mind, by doing this means us putting everything on the line. And this is house, the lot, everything we can have. I'm certainly nowhere near a rich man, I can assure you that. You're attest to the wages that we received as a British professional ice hockey player. And I rebuffed, but I wasn't as kind of closed door as what I was before. And then a couple of days later, she was like, come on, let's just talk about it and let's start going through it. And so I was like, okay, well, all right, let's start. It was more maybe just to get her off my case, I don't know. And she's like, come on, it will be fun. It will take your mind off things. Even if it's just a fantasy, let's start putting things down and write it all down and see how this would all work. Me building an ice rink. And it just worked wonders. And all of a sudden, my creativity is going crazy in my mind, which was a complete blank before. Mm-hmm. And even just kind of the thought of it was exciting me. And I didn't know if it was going to happen, but I just enjoyed kind of going through it. It took my mind off of things, and it was wonderful. And then I started going into it a little bit more, and then you kind of, all right, what's the funds? And, how does this work? How does that work? I know what I want to do on the ice. I can coach, but how do you run an ice rink? How do you get it set up? What's the planning permission and ducting and airflow and everything that goes with an ice rink? So started going through it, and then kind of came to a standstill in a sense, because I was like, I don't really know operational wise how this is all going to work. So then it came to a standstill, and then COVID hit. And so I had the week off work. Joanna, my wife Joanna, we talked about it again. She's like, I've really got time now. Let's go into this a little bit more. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I'm just coming to a bit of a log jam here. I don't know what the next bit to do is. So then I asked for help, and I called out to my friend Kevin and said, what do you think? He works in oil and gas, so a lot of the stuff that he does is that he projects 5 years in advance of where they need to dig for oil and drill for oil and stuff like that. And said, what do you think of my idea? And he's like, skepticism, as always from most people when you say you're going to build an ice rink. He was like, you know what, like, give me a week, I'll come back and I'll let you know whether you've got a good idea or not. And then Kevin called back in 2 hours and was like, this can be done, And then it went from there to the point where I'm now sitting in my office and in my own ice rink.
And it's like the word that I use is you built a community. So I know that it's a place for your Ben Bounds was there the other day, and you've got your high echelon athletes training there. But then also when I left, you have a community of other people just learning how to skate from other backgrounds, which just warmed my heart, when I left the rink the other day. And that's what you've done, is you've built a community where you've literally got, the elite of the elite, mixing with the community together in a space that everyone feels safe.
Yeah, and it's funny because, so I built the rink myself. I built it with my dad and I built it with my friends, most of which never even picked up a tool before. And I wanted to do that because I wanted them to be part of the journey. I wanted them to be on this with me. I wanted to make the build a good experience. I had really not great experience in construction. I had some really nice customers and I had some terrible customers. Some people are just like that. So this was my own build and I wanted to make this enjoyable. I didn't want to go through the previous experiences of what comes with construction because it's a tough industry. So I wanted to enjoy this. So I did it with my dad and I did it with my friends. And it was just the most wonderful thing I've ever been through. The most grueling yet exhilarating experience of my life was building this rink. So, you know, as we go on and stuff's being built and then we start building the bar and where the change rooms are and stuff, I remember someone saying to me, you know, like, when you walk in here, like, what's your vision of what this looks like when it's finished? And I actually said, my vision, when I think of this place finished, is me walking up the stairs into the bar and seeing all the families that I know and new families that I don't know, all in the bar talking amongst each other. That was my vision, bizarrely. It actually wasn't anything to do with being on the ice. It was about building a community that people from all over the country, they come and they meet. It's pretty demanding being an ice hockey parent. You spend most weekends away, so therefore, you know, you need to, you know, friendships are born on the road when it comes to ice hockey. And so that was my vision, actually. It was nothing to do with actually being on the ice. It was people walking up those stairs, which I do now, because my office is next to the bar. And I love walking up the stairs and I don't know who's in. And it might be someone I've never met before, it might be people I've known for 30 years. The excitement of seeing people talking amongst one another and having fun, and we had the TVs and the music here, and just a safe and just a wonderful environment. That's the coolest part of all this.
It is beautiful, and I've already got my butt cheeks in one of those comfy sofas.
Yeah, I mean, I have to warn anyone, if they do come to the Ozone, there's one sofa that is extraordinarily comfortable, and if you do sit in it, you will be there for about 5 to 6 hours.
It's beautiful what you've done, Danny, what you're doing, you know, and I think that I'm a pretty good judge of environments and spaces now where I am in my life. And you know, when I went to your place, I actually came in through the back door through where the gates are, because your dad was out there, and it just feels right, you know. And I love I love your journey. I love your vulnerability. You are a leader. You have empathy, and you've created a space where anybody who's seeing this, you know, if you're interested in just going and experiencing ice hockey or a community of ice hockey, then check it out and go down there and see it. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be down there in the next little while too, with you. I'm sure.
Okay,
I love our
nice,
yeah, dude. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And you know, I love our talks together too, man. You're a good man.
Thank you, buddy. It's the stuff like this. You know, to be able to talk to yourself and being able to talk in general. I like my journey. I like that at times it really didn't feel too good for me, and I like that people played their part in helping me get back on my feet. It makes me feel good that people care about me. It makes me feel good that if there is something wrong, I can talk about it. I feel way stronger today than I ever did as the Nottingham Panthers captain, where everything was fine and I was not talking to anyone. And I'm just such a stronger person today, and I like myself a lot better. I really do. And I like that I can say to someone, you know what, like I don't feel great about myself today, and someone can go, well, hey, listen, Danny, you know, you done this, or maybe it's just this, and why don't we go do that? I like that I can be open to people now. It makes me feel better about myself. It doesn't feel like I'm alone, to be honest with you. But you know, the first step is allowing people in. That's huge, and it takes nothing away from what people call manlyhood or whatever it may call. I mean, to me, that's all just rubbish. You know, as I say, I'm more confident. I feel stronger about myself today because I allow people to help me, and I never thought it would be that way. And life's good, man. And life is even when it looks like it sucks, it's good. You're breathing. There are people that care about you that you don't even realize, and maybe you don't realize it because you don't allow that moment to recognize that there are people out there that care, and they do, and you're never ever alone. That's for sure. And if there's one thing you can take from any of this, is that just allow people in, talk. It just makes you feel so much better, and then you build. A year and a half ago, I was on my knees crying. Today, I'm sitting in my own ice rink, and I'm looking out my window here, and we have a special needs group out there, and they're having a wonderful time, and that's what life is.
And that is absolutely beautiful. And we'll just wrap it up there, Danny. I know we'll be talking and working together in the future. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that if anybody is, if what we've talked about has brought up any emotions, anybody, please feel free to DM both me or Danny. We both have created spaces where people can come to, for anybody, but particularly men, you know, maybe of a certain age who've been through some certain things where you think, you know, asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. So please, if anybody does need any, just want to talk to, reach out to us. We're here for you. And Danny, yeah, I'll probably see you. We'll talk. We'll put some programs together for people off the ice over the summer. And again, I think it's about creating spaces where people can unlearn old ideas, so that we can become more compassionate. And that's parents included. You know, parents and coaches included. You can unlearn some of the things that were harmful at a time and no longer serve us now. So again, brother, thank you so much. How can people get in touch with you?
We have our website, www.ozonering.co.uk. If you are interested in the figure skating, the public skating, we have special needs. We have, we have everything. We cater for everyone. And then if you like to get involved with the hockey, if you want to learn to play, we have free equipment here for you to come in and learn how to play the great game of ice hockey. That's www.ozonhockey.co.uk. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Everything's there. We are a place that we want you to come in. We want you to enjoy. Our doors are open to anyone, and any way that we can help you guys out to enjoy stuff, then we'll be the place for you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Danny. You can put those links in the Facebook chat too if you want, or you can send them to me and I'll put them in there. Have a wonderful summer. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Don't forget to join. Skate sharpened for you.
What's up, buddy?
I said I'll get your skate sharpened for you.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm on the look for a good stick, and you know, I've got the glove, I've got everything else. I just need a good stick and my skate sharpened, and I'll be down there.
Cool. Thanks.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us at the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. Don't forget, Tender and Tough, I'm going to be holding a space this Thursday at 11 a.m. The link will be in the Facebook page. And that's, again, just a place for people to come to and talk and have conversation around masculinity and old ideas of masculinity. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.